Hello everyone, so I recently took a trip down to Orlando, Florida, and I just wanted to share with everyone some of the pictures that I've taken. This is me going through Georgia and arriving in Florida and checking into the hotel. And then on the next day, I headed over to Universal Studios and checked out everything that was going on over there. Saw the Hard Rock Cafe, the big Universal Globe. They had some boats out there. They had some pretty nice walkways, a lot of nice vegetation. Had a big, nice little pond right in the middle of the attractions there. You can see me there riding the little escalator through the parking lot area and just checking out the area around the Hard Rock Cafe and the Blue Man Group. And this area right here was all free. You didn't have to pay anything to get into this area. And that night I headed over to watch the wrestling match at the Impact Zone. And I had the VIP ticket, which got me in early to get a good seat. And here I am inside the Impact Zone getting ready for the show. And yeah, took a quick video here of the crowd before the show. It was really packed in there. Really nice setup with all the lights, and started out with the cage match there. And after the show, I got my picture taken with Drew Galloway. The next day, I headed over to the Disney Epcot Center and saw all of the attractions there. A lot of neat little characters made out of vegetation there, out of the shrubbery. Went into a couple of the buildings. They had a lot of technology and things like that. Checked out the park. They had this one ride where it was like you're going through the history of food and vegetation, how we get our food, how food is made, things like that. It was on this little boat that you just rode through these small little areas. Then you went to the outside, and it's kind of like a little greenhouse out there. They had different types of vegetables and fruit, and it was showing like the new technologies that they're using to grow food. And just some more vegetation here. Some bananas and orchids and things like that. And then there was this other little tunnel. It was illuminated in red, and it had all sorts of fish in there. I guess these are the type of fish that would be available for consumption, and just showing how the fish are raised. And then is basically more plant life out there, showing how the new technologies that they use to grow food. And then I headed over to the Captain EO show, and it was pretty neat. You put on these 3D glasses, and it was a little short film about Michael Jackson like battling these evil space aliens. Then after that, I headed over at the Epcot Center. They had like 5 or 6 different little areas for each of the countries around the world. First of all, I headed over to Japan, so I got to see a lot of the neat Japanese architecture over there. And they had neat little buildings you could go in. They're like little museums where you could see some Japanese artifacts and learn about Japanese customs and traditions. And they also had a drum show in that area. And after that, I headed over and got some curry from the Japanese restaurant. Then I headed over, I think this was like the Greece area, so you got to see some Greek statues. And then the next area over was the Chinese area, so you got to see some really neat Chinese architecture over here. And this is me standing under the huge Chinese dome. And then before I left, I had to check out the big huge ball that you could ride up into, and it's like the history of man. That night I went back over to the Impact Zone and saw some more wrestling. And then the next day I headed over to the Universal Studios Park, and you can see some of the rides that I rode there. I rode the Twister ride. They had a Men in Black ride. This is me standing in an area that was made up to be like a little city. And then they had an area that was just completely all Simpsons. You got to see Springfield And they had the Quickie Mart and Moe's Tavern, all sorts of different Simpsons related things. They actually even had a Simpsons ride that you could ride in. And this is the DeLorean from Back to the Future. They had some cars from Fast and the Furious. Then I headed over, they had a separate area, I think it's called Adventure Islands or something. They had a lot of Harry Potter stuff there. That was me standing in front of one of the Harry Potter castles. That night I went and saw some more wrestling, had my picture taken with some of the female wrestlers. The next day I headed over to SeaWorld and saw some flamingos over there and a bunch of rays and a little pool that you could go over. You could feed them if you wanted to. There's me standing in front of a castle at SeaWorld. They had a neat little sea show where they had the dolphins trained to do different tricks. There's a pelican right here and neat little pool with the turtles swimming around. They had some neat little areas where you could go into like little rooms and see the fish. You could actually look from under the tanks and see this rays and see the starfish, and here's an octopus right here. So you can see all sorts of neat sea life there. Here's the seahorses. I believe these are the sea dragons. And yeah, just all types of different fish and sea life there. Then they had another show which was more traditional household animals with cats and dogs doing tricks. And they just had these animals trained to do all sorts of different jumps and going into different areas and all sorts of tricks that you can think of. Climbing ladders, climbing over ropes. Then outside they had it's like a nursery of just dolphins. So you could go up and look at the dolphins up close and just interact with the dolphins there. Then there was like a little area with these little ducks, and then you could see some little, I think those were storks or something in the background. Stopped by the Shamu Stadium. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Shamu. I missed that show. But they also had this Arctic area where you got to see all sorts of Arctic sea life, like the sea lions and the sea otters. Here's a walrus right here, a huge walrus. I believe that's a beluga whale. And some more sea otters just swimming around. They had a little area with some Arctic artifacts. And then I headed over to another nice little area. They had some parakeets and parrots just hanging out there. They had another little pool with the little rays swimming around and little smaller mini sharks. And just swimming around, so you can just check those guys out there. And yeah, there was like this big tunnel that you could go into, and you could look up at all the fish and all sorts of little tiny fish swimming around, like fish I've never seen in my entire life. And yeah, there's like one with a big nose, and there were these two little fish here swimming around each other. They were kind of cute. And then I headed over to the shark tunnel where you could look up and you could see the sharks like swimming right next to you. I think that's like a tiger shark and a needle nose shark, and yeah, they were just like right up close, right swimming right over you. Yeah, there's like a hammerhead shark, something like that. And they were just so close. And here's a picture of me with the shark tank above. And yeah, a couple more pictures of me outside of SeaWorld. Here's another picture of the Adventure Island. And yeah, there's me eating at a sandwich shop. Had one final night at wrestling. And that's basically it. Thanks for watching.